I didn't even, I don't know what to do with that. I didn't even get the first word out. That's amazing. Wow, well, good morning, everybody. You go, Jer. That's awesome. You guys are amazing. Holy smokes. Hey, is it just me, or have you guys noticed that our students are getting crazier and louder? I don't know if it's because they're hanging out with the student director, if there's something else going on, but there is that. So, hey, if you don't know me, my name is Jeremy, and I'm the student director, and I'm glad that you guys are here today. And I'm curious, does anybody like to have fun? Well, that's good because we're going to have some fun today. And before we do, I need to do a quick shout out to any of our students who have not checked out our student ministry yet. So if you are maybe new with us, or maybe you've been to our student ministry once or twice and you're like, yeah, it's just not my vibe, I want to challenge you guys to give it another chance. Here's why. There's 3 reasons that you should come back there. Number 1, we talk about Jesus and the Bible, and you need Jesus and the Bible. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, we have food. That just won half of you over, okay? And number 3, we have pickleball. So if that's not enough for you, I don't know what is. And so I'm super excited to be with you guys today. If you were with us last summer, then you might remember that Trent had asked me to share part of my story with you guys and maybe a little bit about how I came to Epic. And that's awesome. And I had this thought when he asked me, I was like, you know what? This is a win-win. Here's why. Because if I do really good, then God is pleased, and that's what we're up here for, to please God, right? But if I bomb this thing, then I might never have to do this again. So there was some tension that I was managing there, and yet Trent decided to put me back up here the week before Easter, the week that is pretty much the make it or break it for you guys to want to invite your friends back. So no pressure to me today, but I'm excited to be up here today. If you were with us when I spoke last, then you probably remember that I played a game. Anybody remember that game? Okay, some of you do. Awesome. So clearly we need to do better to make sure that you guys remember it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a game a little differently today. It's not going to have 2 volunteers that come up here. This is going to be a game where all of you are my volunteers, okay? You guys ready for this? Okay, this game is called This or That, and it's a game very simple. We're going to have 2 pictures that come up on the screen, and all you have to do is tell me which item or method you prefer, all right? Very simple. We're going to start with an easy one. You guys ready? Here we go. All right, the first one is toilet paper. This could save many of your marriages, by the way, okay? So when it comes to toilet, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have you guys shout out based upon which one you guys prefer. So if you're forward, say forward. Forward. Okay, that was good. Now, you guys ready for this? Okay, if it's backwards, say backwards. Backward. All right, awesome. We have the minority in the house. We have a counseling center in the back on your way out. We would love to have you guys stop by. It's going to be a great thing for you. All right, next one is going to be very simple. And when it comes to phones, do you prefer iPhone or Android? All right, there's a lot. I can't really tell. So if you're iPhone, say iPhone. If you're Android, say Android. Wow, that's kind of half and half right there. I don't know if you Android users know this, but we're in the 21st century. And there's this thing called FaceTime. And it's a really fun thing to do. I've actually never had an Android, so I don't know what I'm missing, if I'm missing anything, but I'm an Apple guy. All right, next one. When it comes to pulling your car into a parking spot, do you prefer to pull straight in, or do you prefer to back in? All right, if you say forward or pull in, say pull in. If you prefer backing in, say backing in. All right, again, half and half. So I'm a backwards guy. You can always tell by looking at my truck. The tailgate is completely dented and the bumper is shattered in. That's because I backed into a telephone pole. And I was Frank, you were with me, actually. That was awesome. It was a good memory. And the tailgate's still open, so it's amazing. All right, last but not least, everybody, this is a good one. When it comes to your coffee, which do you prefer? Do you prefer it black, or do you prefer it girly? So this is where, real quick, before we really get the answers here, I need to know, where's the women? If you're a woman, say woo. All right, awesome. Now this is where your husbands are gonna be put to the test, because if they lie in church today, that's not good. So if they say they drink black coffee when you know they drink girly coffee, you have to say, liar, okay? So you guys with me? All right, here we go. So ready? If you're a black coffee drinker, say black. If you're a girly coffee drinker, say girly. Any liars? All right, we're all right. That's good. Well, guys, listen. I'm a black coffee drinker, and a lot of you who know me, you're like, why do you drink coffee, okay? I don't need coffee, but my wife's grandfather, when I was dating my wife, he said, what are you gonna do to connect with my granddaughter? I said, well, go hunting or something, naturally. And he was just like, no, you gotta drink coffee. She likes coffee, you gotta drink coffee. So I started drinking mocha frappuccinos, and that was awesome. And now my wife drinks coffee that's so black that when you look at it, you start shaking. It's amazing. It really is incredible. So anyways, hey, give yourself a round of applause for playing today's game. That's awesome. Well, hey, today, I'm excited to be with you guys today. How many of you have enjoyed our series called Greater? Anybody? Awesome. Well, today we're gonna pick back up. We started in week 1 with Jake talking about how God is greater than our sorrow. And last week, Matt picked it back up and talked about how God is greater than our sin. And today we're gonna change it up. We're gonna talk about how God is greater than our expectations. So if you're still with me, say, God is greater. God is greater. Now everybody say, God is greater than. Now everybody say, God is greater than my expectations. You guys sound awesome, way to go. But here's the thing. It is one thing to say it, it's another thing to believe it. It's one thing to say that God is greater than my sorrow, than my sin, than my shame, that he's greater than my expectation, but it's another thing to actually believe it in your heart. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that today. I'm gonna go as far as starting with this today, that God is so much greater than our expectations that what we believe about God will determine what we expect him to do. What we believe about God will determine what you and I will expect him to do. So again, here's a question that I wanna start off today with. Do you believe that God is greater, or do you just say it? Because again, there is a difference. So today is Palm Sunday. And if you don't know what Palm Sunday is the Sunday before the resurrection of Jesus, where Jesus came into Jerusalem riding on a donkey with a declaration. He declared that he was the King of the Jews. And so as Jesus is riding in, the people of Jerusalem started laying palm branches down and their jackets down to show him honor and respect for his royalty. So today is Palm Sunday. This week ahead of us is known as Passion Week or Holy Week. And we call it Passion Week because of the passion that Jesus took with him leading up to the cross. The passion that he had for you, the passion that he had for me, the passion that he had for your neighbors that you can't stand. Believe it or not, my neighbors are here today. They're not the ones I can't stand though, okay? Just saying, all right? Just making sure we understand that. But Jesus took that passion with him because he loved everybody. So the passion that he took with him leading up to the cross, that's why we call this week Passion Week. Next Sunday is Easter Sunday. It's the Sunday that we celebrate and remember the resurrection of Jesus, our King. And it's the Sunday, actually, does anybody know what Easter even means? Does anybody know what the word Easter means? Other than my students, no, Noah, no, you can't say it. I know you guys know it. Does anybody know what the word Easter means? Easter, everybody's saying, oh yeah, I don't know, okay. So here's what Easter means. It's a German word that means east. It means east. And I'm like, wow, that was really original. You guys did awesome there. That was great. But here's the thing. It was meant for us to remember the sunrise, new beginnings. And it was meant to point us back to how Jesus is giving us new life in his resurrection. And so next week is Easter Sunday. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about that at the end, but I'm not here to talk about Easter today. I'm talking about how God is greater than our expectations. So again, if you're with me, say God is greater. Today, I want to take us back 2,000 years to the very first Palm Sunday that took place in Jerusalem. Before we even do that, I'm going to give you guys a chance to turn to Matthew 21, verses 1 through 8. We're going to be in there for a little bit today. And if you guys don't have a Bible, this is where I want to say, if you look behind your seating section, you'll notice some tables. And on those tables, there's going to be a stack of Bibles. That's actually our gift to you. If you want a Bible for you or your family, please take those with you. We also want to say this, that if you prefer the Bible on your iPhone or Android, then you can download the YouVersion Bible app. It's super self-explanatory, super easy to use. So we want you guys to have a copy of God's word. Now, here's the thing, is to set up today, I need to give you guys some context as to what's even going on in Jerusalem at this point. So at first, you have the Roman Empire in complete and total control. So the Roman Empire was kind of controlling all the people, all their choices and everything that they were doing, anything that they were allowed to do, and they were just totally in control for everywhere. They were overtaxing anyone that they wanted to, especially the Jewish people. We wouldn't know anything about taxation though, would we? Number 3, they often took land from people because they wanted to expand their kingdom. So if they wanted your land, they could take it. And if you refused to do any of those things that they asked of you or told you to do, they could threaten to imprison you or crucify you. So how's that for context? Anybody want to go back to 2,000 years ago? Nobody? That's what was happening though. There was total control by the Roman Empire. The Jewish people were oppressed. They were tired and they were angry at the Roman nation. They were angry at them because they wanted freedom from Rome. 3 words, everybody say freedom from Rome. They wanted freedom from Rome because again, they did not want to be controlled. They wanted a king to lead them out of their slavery. So, what's crazy is that 500 years before Jesus came, there was a prophet named Zechariah in the Old Testament. Zechariah 9:9, and he says this. He says, listen, rejoice, O people of Zion. Shout in triumph, O people of Jerusalem. Look, your king is coming to you. He is righteous and victorious, yet he is humble. He's riding on a donkey, riding on a donkey's colt. So again, the Jewish people were waiting for this king. They were waiting patiently. For 500 years, they waited. Why did they wait? Why didn't they just give up? I mean, if you're waiting 500 years, don't you think it's about time that we start maybe thinking and dreaming up of something new? I mean, after all, that is what a lot of people in the Old Testament did. They had these promises, and then they decided, well, let's just make our own gold statues, our own gods. But these people waited, and they waited patiently because they had a promise. And they had a promise that God was going to send them a king. And when you have a king, you have great power. And everybody knows that with great power comes great responsibility. Way to go, Spider-Man. That's great. So even though they were expecting God to send them this king, many assumed, and this is important because they assumed that their king was going to bring them freedom from the slavery or the bondage of Rome. They were expecting their king to overthrow Rome. So when Jesus came 500 years later, he claimed to be that king. And I don't know if you're like me or maybe you're like the disciples as well, where a claim is not always enough. I mean, how many of you believe when somebody says like, oh, I'm better at you than basketball, and you've never seen them play, and you're like, prove it, right? Unless you're playing Keegan Bruce, then you're just done for, all right? Then you just lose, one of our students in our ministry. And here's the thing is a lot of people need proof. And for the Jewish people, they were thinking, listen, if we're going to believe that Jesus is this king that Zechariah had promised, then we need evidence. We need proof. And so Jesus proved it. He started by turning water into wine, which caused all the men to believe that he was in fact God. Thank you for the one laugh. Thank you. I was waiting for at least 2 laughs. That was great. Jesus healed the sick, he gave the blind their sight, and he brought the dead back to life. And if that wasn't enough, he did all of this while being human and being somebody that they didn't expect. So Jesus proved it. And once the people started seeing these miracles and seeing that Jesus was actually proving that he was all powerful, maybe they believed that Jesus was going to do another miracle. Maybe they believed that Jesus was going to, I don't know, maybe like give the Romans amnesia and make them forget how much they hated them. Maybe Jesus was gonna like break their heart for how much he was taxing them or how much they were taxing them. Maybe Jesus was gonna do something beyond what they could imagine. Maybe Jesus was gonna turn into supernaturally into Maximus Decimus Meridius from the first Gladiator. Anybody a big fan of Gladiator? Not the second one, the first one. The first one's way better, am I right? Yeah, okay, great. But maybe Jesus was waiting for the right time to become somebody greater in their minds. Maybe he was just trying to play the humble card and let the Romans think that he wasn't a threat. And then boom, at the last minute, he was gonna become this amazing warrior who the people of Jerusalem would die for. Maybe he was gonna lead them into victory. But when Jesus showed up on the scene, the Jews were a little confused. I mean, I would be too if I was promised a king and then Jesus showed up. But in their minds, they expected Jesus to be a little different, to lead a little different. Even so, many of them chose to believe Jesus and follow Jesus, while many others struggled. I mean, naturally, maybe the miracles weren't enough. While others hated him so much because they believed he was a false prophet. And because they believed he was a false prophet, get this, they thought, listen, if he's a false prophet and he's not the king that Zechariah promised us, then he's gonna interfere with our king and our freedom. So we gotta stop it. So there was a group of people, especially the Pharisees, that decided, listen, let's take Jesus and let's plan his death. And that's what they did. But those who did follow him chose to give Jesus a triumphal entry into the city of Jerusalem, the very city that Jesus would die. So again, if you have your Bibles, Matthew 21, we have arrived on scene. Now we have the moment where Jesus is now preparing the way for his triumphal entry. Verse 1. As Jesus and the disciples approached Jerusalem, they came to the town of Bethphage on the Mount of Olives. Jesus sent two of them on ahead. Go into the village over there, he said. As soon as you enter it, you will see a donkey tied there with its colt beside it. Untie them and bring them to me. And if anyone asks what you are doing, just say, the Lord needs them, and he will immediately let you take them. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of want to use that line on somebody. I was thinking of Derek, one of our new pastors. I was thinking, you know what? He's got this fancy car. What if I just go into his office and take his keys? And if he says, like, what are you doing? I'm going to say, Derek. Oh, buddy, old pal. You see, the Lord needs this. He will return it soon. I got to have a hard conversation with a student at Chick-fil-A naturally, and they're struggling with anxiety, and a ride in your car with the student director could really ease their anxiety. You guys think it's worth a shot? Derek, you better hide your keys, man. This week I'm coming. So verse 4 tells us that this took place to fulfill the prophecy that said, tell the people of Jerusalem, look, your king is coming to you. He is humble, riding on a donkey, riding on a donkey's colt. Again, that's the prophecy of Zechariah 500 years prior. The two disciples did as Jesus commanded. They brought the donkey and the colt to him and threw their garments over the colt, and he, Jesus, sat on it. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, maybe if you're like me or the disciples again, you're thinking, okay, if Jesus was gonna come and we were gonna do this big entry into Jerusalem, don't you think we should maybe go all out? Don't you think we should deck this place out with all the decorations and make it look like the Romans do when they have this emperor coming in with the chariots and all the guards and all this kind of stuff? Maybe what we should do is instead of the donkey, that's not really intimidating. Maybe instead we just give a white horse and give it armor and make Jesus look like this awesome warrior like Maximus. They use this Greek word. Everybody try to say this with me. It's called shakafai. Shakafai, it means decorate like the Shockies. It's not a word, I made it up. But if you don't know the Shockies are our lead pastor and his family, and when they decorate something, let me tell you, they go all out, and they make it look so stinking good. In fact, my son's third birthday party was an Iron Man birthday party, and I walked in, I didn't even do anything, I just showed up, which was hilarious. And I showed up, and it's like going to Disney. I mean, my in-laws, they just deck this place out, and my son walks in, and he's like, whoa. But that's the kind of mentality that a lot of these disciples were probably having. Don't you think we should strike fear into the Romans by going all out? But Jesus didn't do that. Jesus didn't do that because he said, listen, I'm gonna come in humbly. And verse 8 tells us that the crowd spread their garments on the road ahead of him, and others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Now, I know that for us, it's hard to imagine branches and our garments to be a sign of royalty and honor, but to the Jewish people, that's all that they had. This is something I don't want you guys to miss. This is important. Many of the people were honoring Jesus for who he was, while others for what they expected him to do. Let me say that again. Many were honoring Jesus for who he was, while others for what they expected him to do. Have you ever found yourself doing this? Where maybe there's a moment when you're praying to God, and I know for me, I do this all the time, and I have to have a heart check with me because there's times where I'm just asking God to do everything for me. God, would you answer this prayer? God, would you take care of that? God, would you take care of this? God, can you be my magic genie? Do we ever have these moments where we just have, we kind of hit the pause button and we're just like, God, you're holy. You are awesome. You are righteous, and you are everything that we need. And I don't think we, as followers of Jesus, do that enough, if I'm honest with you. I have talked to numerous people about their prayer life and about how that affects their relationship with God. And honestly, the people in my life who have the best relationship with God have more times where they're down on their knees and they're just saying, God, thank you. You are amazing. And if I'm honest with you, every time I spend my time on my knees with God, my life is not just better, my relationship with God is greater because I'm worshiping him and honoring him for who he is. One of my favorite authors and theologians is Charles Ryrie. And he says this about the passage that we just read. He said, listen, the crowd wanted salvation from the oppression of Rome, not the spiritual salvation that Jesus offered. They wanted freedom from Rome, not what Jesus came to do. Jesus had something else that he wanted to do. So even though Jesus predicted all of this, it's like that many of the people of Israel were more interested in how Jesus was going to set up his kingdom, how he would destroy the Roman Empire and finally set his people free. And in doing so, it's almost like they completely forgot the humble part, how Jesus would come in on a donkey. Or maybe they did remember, but maybe they expected something different. When was the last time you had an expectation that went differently than you expected? When was the last time that something in your life that you expected God to do, or maybe just something your family was doing, and it went differently or ended differently than you expected? Maybe it was something simple, like maybe you told your husband or your spouse in general to go to the grocery store on their way home from work, and they forgot again. Here's how you deal with that. You expect them to forget, and it's all good. Maybe it's something else, like you send a text or an email to somebody, and you expect them to get back to you immediately, and then you have that little ... or whatever, and it's like, how long is it taking them to type? And then you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting, and then that doesn't come. You expected them to get back to you. These are silly examples. But what about the deeper, harder ones to deal with? If I'm honest with you, I wonder how much of us or how many of us struggle because we've had issues in our marriage. I wonder if one of the things that we have a hard time doing it with believing God or believing what God is going to do is because we haven't seen him work in our lives like we expected him to. We wanted answers faster than he gave them to us. I wonder if one of the reasons why our marriages are struggling is because we're not actually worshiping God for who he is. We're waiting for him to do something that we want him to do. Maybe you've experienced or expected God to heal that family member with sickness or a medical condition, and it hasn't happened in your timing. Maybe you already went through it and it never even happened. And you have these moments where you're like, God, are you even here? Are you even real? Because listen, if you would just prove yourself to me, I would believe you. If you would just show me a sign, I would believe you. I don't know everything about God. And I know this, that I'll never fully understand him. But here's what I do know. We can fully trust him. That's something I know we can do. A few weeks ago, if you were here with us, you probably remember the story of Nard, which is a guy that came from the Philippines. He was a friend of Trent and Tammy's. And he shared a story about how God worked in his village to bring the news of Jesus Christ to their whole tribe. And what I love about Nard's story is that he never expected God to view him or even approach him in a personal way. He never expected God to be involved in his life. Nard never expected God to send a 6'2" white man named Rudy, which is funny, that's my son's name. I never even planned that. He never expected God to send this guy Rudy to his village who would learn the language and translate the Bible into that language. But here's what I took away from Nard's story. I took away that you need to expect the unexpected. You need to expect the unexpected because that's how God works. Is often in our life, God actually comes into our life and he does things that we don't expect him to do. And some things are way better. They turn out way better. Some things not so much. In our own mind anyway. I'm going to get off topic in just a second. I didn't plan this until this morning, and one of our students is here, and I asked him for permission to share this story. Felipe is one of our students that came a few years ago, and he didn't know Jesus. And what you don't know about Felipe is that years ago, he lost his dad. And if I'm honest, if I'm in that position, I am not thinking of how great my God is or how great God even could be. I'm thinking of, why did God let my dad die? And yet God worked in Felipe's way in such a way that he shows up to Epic through somebody here at Epic. And he comes here, and there's an opportunity for him to go to camp with us at this camp called Word of Life, where the guy that came to Nard's Village had placed his faith in Jesus. The same camp that this guy went to years ago. Felipe came with us in our student ministry up to that same camp for snow camp. And when they gave the invitation, Felipe was one of the first to go up. He placed his faith in Jesus, and he's serving in our ministry now. He loves God, and one of the things that this is crazy. This shows his faith. One of the things that's crazy is that in small group last week, we asked a question, and I forget how it went, but basically he said something like this: I'm thankful for how my life turned out. And I'm like, how? How are you thankful that you lost your dad? He's like, I'm not necessarily thankful that I lost my dad, but I'm thankful that God brought me to an understanding of who he was. And if it wasn't for that in my life, I don't think I'd be here. And to me, that's a story of life change. That's a story of God doing something greater than you expected. That's a story where if you truly look at that right there, I mean, the blueprints of that is just God all over that. I'm so thankful for Felipe, even though it took me 6 months to memorize your name. I'm so grateful because it's stories like that where we might not expect God to have done something so great. I didn't expect God to do what he did in my life. Nard never expected God to do what he did in his life. Rudy never expected God to transform his life at a camp where he would have this passion to go take the good news of Jesus one day to a country or to a village that had never been reached before. This is the kind of stuff that happens, that God does in our student ministry, in our kids ministry, in our church. And if we try to stop that, look what we could have stopped. But if we keep it going, look what God can do. What's even crazier is that Felipe and a bunch of our other seniors, as of this coming August or September, are heading to Word of Life to study the Bible for a year. And what's even crazier about that is they will become camp counselors. They will become camp counselors for the remainder of the year when camp season comes around. And there might be a student that comes to them and they will be their camp counselor and they will help lead them to Jesus. And maybe that's gonna be the story that takes the gospel to another country. You just don't know these things, but that's what God is doing. My story never turned out the way I expected. Felipe's didn't. Maybe yours didn't either. Maybe your marriage turned out differently than you expected. Maybe you're still going through these ongoing battles that you're wrestling with how to connect and how to love each other. And maybe, just maybe, you're just praying that God does a miracle in your marriage. I know I'm a pastor, but I've even been there. So you're not alone. Maybe the sickness of your family member is causing you to doubt God. Maybe it's that ongoing battle that you're just asking God for strength each and every day. And if I'm honest with you, I'm never gonna have the right words to say to you. I don't have the right things to say to make all of this better, but Jesus does. And Jesus tells us in Matthew 11:28, he says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." There are two things in that verse that you need to know. Number one, there's an invitation. And everyone's invited. Number two, there's a promise, and that promise is that he will give you rest. Do you need rest today? You don't have to answer that out loud, but maybe in your own heart just say, listen, if you're that person that says, I do need rest, I'm not gonna lie to you, this week has been difficult for me. I've had all these different things happening in my life that I'm just like, really, God? Like, I'm speaking on Sunday. Can I just not have these distractions? My water heater started going this week. I'm like, are you kidding me? And praise God for Chuck Dieter, who shows up at my door and he says, I can help you fix it. Thank you, Chuck. And then yesterday morning, my grandmother passed away. And I knew it was coming. And it's hard because it's like, there's not even, and it's funny that I'm even emotional now, I'm not even that emotional about it yet. but I'm distracted by it. And if I'm honest with you, I'm just like, God, why? Why are all these things happening? Apparently it's because God's trying to do something good today. And Satan's trying to stop that. So there's an invitation to his promise. If you need rest today, I want to promise you this, you can find rest. And we want to help you find that rest. Jesus wants to help you find that rest. One of the ways that we do that here at Epic is we started this care and counseling ministry where if you're struggling with things, you get to come and we get to guide you through that. We will help you get through that. That's why Trent started Epic Church, because God gave him a passion to reach people here in Flagler County, to help reach people that were struggling with those things like marriage issues, pain from family members with sickness. I mean, that's why we exist. That's why our student ministry exists, because there are too many students. In fact, 90% of students are leaving the church after they graduate high school. That's not okay. We got to do something about it. So we've decided as Epic Church to do something about it. Our bottom line for today is what we started with. It's this: what we believe about God will determine what we expect him to do. So what do you believe about God? Do you believe that God is present in your life? Do you believe that he's absent in your life? Do you believe that God is even capable to handle the issues that you're going through? Do you even believe that God is real? Because what we believe about God will determine what we expect him to do. And what we believe in our hearts starts with our thoughts. One of the things I teach our students constantly is that our thoughts lead to actions, and our actions lead to habits, and our habits lead to lifestyle. The thoughts that you and I think turn into the actions that we do. The actions that we do turn into the habits that we create. The habits that we create turn into the lifestyle that we live. What kind of lifestyle have you created? One with God or one without? Because that's going to determine what you expect him to do in these situations that you don't know what to do. Today, we all need this reminder. I've needed this reminder. I was praying this morning, and I was like, God, what do you want to teach me in my own message? And what he taught me was, hey, I'm still with you. And I'm like, that's good. I need that reminder today. If that's you, I'm glad that you're here. But today was not the greatest message ever. Today is not the message that I want to encourage you to invite your friends to. This next message that we have next weekend, is our Easter message. We're going to do things a little differently. We're actually going to have, like Derek said, 4 services over the weekend, and the first one is going to be on Saturday night. We're going to talk about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, our King, that we've waited for his return for over 2,000 years. Jesus is coming back. He came back to life, and now he's coming back again, and we're waiting for our King, and we want to tell all of Flagler County about that message. So Saturday night at 5 p.m., we're going to have our first message. That's going to be Saturday night at what time? 5 p.m. Way to go. The next 3 are going to be Sunday morning like normal, but we're going to have them at 3 different times. We're going to have them at 8 a.m., 9:30 a.m., and 11 a.m. And I want to encourage you guys to invite those in your life who maybe are wrestling with what we talked about today. Maybe they're struggling to believe that God is capable. Maybe they're struggling to believe that God is even present in their life. And if you think that they won't come, I double dog dare you to invite them. Because God can do greater things in our life than we expect him to do. Following Easter, we have on April 27th our baptism. And if you have never been baptized, this is an opportunity for you. Yeah, thanks for clapping. This is an opportunity for you. If this is the moment where you want to declare your faith that you've placed in Jesus as your King and as your Lord and as your Savior, then we want to baptize you. You can get more information either on the screens or on your way out today, and we would love to have those conversations with you to see if that's the next step for you. Guys, I encourage you to come back with your friends, your family, for the greatest message of all time as Trent wraps us up next week. So would you guys do me a favor as we close today? Would you guys stand with me? what I want to do is instead of doing what we tend to do and say, God, would you do this for me? I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm actually encouraging that you do that. But for right now, would you do me a favor and would you just, in your own heart, would you have a prayer between you and God that says, God, you are holy. God, like some of the Jewish people, we want to worship you for who you are, not just what we expect you to do. So God, today, as we close, as we go back into our week, Lord, and as we're tempted to do the things that you don't want us to do, God, would you do us a favor and would you remind us of your holiness? Would you remind us how good you are? Would you remind us that you are present in our lives? That you're capable to deal with the things in our life that need dealt with. God, would you remind us of your goodness and your faithfulness and your comfort that we so desperately need on the days and in the moments that seem like we just can't keep going on. God, I know there's some people here today that I personally know that are wrestling majorly. Would you be with them today, Lord, and remind them of how good you are? So Jesus, we worship you as King. We honor you as King. We love you because you are our King. And Jesus, we pray all of this in your name. Amen.